Okay, so this sentence basically says what we just did. So you can solve a compound inequality by working with all three parts of the inequality at the same time. So you work to isolate the variable between the inequality symbols, which is what we just did. Okay, so now we're going to kind of go through some word problems. So to earn a B in your algebra class, you must achieve an unrounded test average between 84 and 86 inclusively. So you scored an 86, 85, and 80 on your first three tests of the grading period. What possible score can you earn on your fourth and final test to earn a B in the course? So we have to remember a little bit about finding averages, but the first thing I want to do is set up our inequality just as inclusive. So let me start out. So it says we need to have an unrounded test score between 84 and 86 inclusively. So we have 84 on this side, and it's going to be less than or equal to because it says inclusive, and we're going to have 86 on the other side, that less than or equal to symbol on that side. Okay, so we have three different test scores. So we have 86 plus 85 plus 80, and we don't know our fourth one, so our fourth one's going to be x. To average these out, we are going to divide by the number of tests that we have. So we have 4 tests, so we are going to divide this side by 4. Okay, or the middle by 4, excuse me. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to combine like terms in the middle. So we still have this 84 is less than or equal to, when we do 86 plus 85 plus 80, that gives us 251 plus x divided by 4, and that's going to be less than or equal to 86. Okay? So our next step is we are going to multiply all 3 sections by 4 to get rid of this 4 down here. So we're going to multiply the middle by 4, we're going to multiply this side by 4, and we're going to multiply this side by 4. That's going to leave us with 336 is less than or equal to 251 plus x is less than or equal to 344. Okay, our last step, we are going to subtract this 251 from all 3 sections. That leaves us with 85 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 93. So that means that you can get between an 85 and a 93 inclusively on your last test to get a B in the course. Okay? So our got it problem says that suppose you scored 78, 78, 79, can you still get a B? So our B is just like we had up there. So we have this 84 less than or equal to, we've got these 3 test scores. So we have 78 plus 78 plus 79. And our last one is going to be x divided by 4. So that's how we average. Is less than or equal to 86, just like on the last one. So when we multiply all 3 by 4, that's going to give us that 336 is less than or equal to 78 plus 78 plus 79 plus x is less than or equal to 344. Okay, so now we're going to combine like terms in the middle. So we have 336 is less than or equal to 235 plus x is less than or equal to 344. Okay, so our last step is to just subtract this 235 from all 3 sections. When we do that, that gives us 101 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 109. So if we assume that the maximum grade that you can get on the test is 100, that means that it's not possible to get a B in the class. So not possible to get a B. Okay? So A solution to the inequality involving or is any number that makes either inequality true. So to solve the compound inequality involving or, you must solve separately the two inequalities that form the inequality. So we need to go through each of these and solve them. So the first one we have is 3t plus 2 is less than negative 7. So we are going to subtract this 2 on both sides. That leaves us with 3t, is less than negative 9. And we divide this 3 on both sides, which gives us t is less than negative 3. So we have one of them. Now we're going to look at our other ones. So we have negative 4t plus 5 is less than 1. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. That leaves us with negative 4t is less than negative 4. And when we divide by a negative 4, we have to switch that inequality sign. So we have t is greater than 1. So that is our other inequality. And that or is in between. So when we come down here, we have negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, on and on. Okay, so our first one we have is t is less than negative 3. So we have an open circle at negative 3, and we are shading to the left. And then we have t is greater than 1, so we have an open circle at 1, and we are shading to the right. Okay, so that's all it takes. It's just doing them separately and shading them both. Okay, if we come down here, we have negative 2y plus 7 is less than 1, so we subtract 7 from both sides. That gives us negative 2y is less than negative 6. We go ahead and divide by that negative 2. That automatically switches the sign. We have y is greater than 3. Okay, and then we have 4y plus 3 is less than or equal to negative 5. So we subtract this 3 on both sides. That leaves us with 4y is less than or equal to negative 8. And we divide this 4 on both sides, which leaves us with y is less than or equal to negative 2. Okay, and that or is still in between. So we have negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So our first one we have y is greater than 3, so we have an open circle at 3, and we're shading to the right. And our second one we have y is less than or equal to negative 2, so we have a closed circle at negative 2, and we are shading to the left. Okay? Our last two pages are looking at our interval notation. So when we have the graph, so we want to know what the graph of open bracket negative 4 comma 6 close parentheses is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on our graph. So I'm going to write it down here so that I don't have to, so that I can pull it up just a little bit. So we have negative 4, 6, close parentheses. So if we put this on a graph, we have negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the first thing we see is negative 4, and it has a bracket next to it. So we know that a bracket means a closed circle, okay? Then we've got a 6 with a parentheses next to it. So we have an open circle at 6 because it's got that parentheses next to it. When we have two different numbers, we are shading in between those numbers. So we are shading in between. That's still an open circle, okay? So now that we have this, we can go ahead and write our inequality. So we have this closed circle at this negative 4. So we're going to have negative 4 is less than or equal to, because we've got that closed circle. We've got x. We have an open circle at 6, so it's going to be less than 6. Okay, so that's going to be how we write our inequality. So when we have or, when we write or in our, when we graph or first, let's graph it. We have negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Those are the only ones we need. So the first one we have is that x is less than or equal to negative 1. So we have a closed circle at negative 1, and we are shading to the left. The other one we have is x is greater than 2. So we have an open circle at 2, and we are shading to the right. Okay? So the way that we actually write this out in interval notation is we write our individual inequalities, and then we put an or in between them. So the first one we have is that open parentheses, negative infinity, comma, negative 1, close bracket. Or then we have our open bracket for 2, comma, infinity, close parentheses. Okay? So that should be our answer here. So we're still looking at our graph and writing our interval notation. So our last page is just got it problems. We have, first thing we need to do is graph it. So we've got open parentheses, negative 2, comma, 7, close bracket. So we have negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have parentheses around that negative 2, so we have an open circle at negative 2, and we have a bracket around that 7, so we've got a closed circle at that 7. We are shading in between. Okay, and our inequality for this one, we have negative 2, x, and 7. We have an open circle at negative 2, so that's going to give us that less than sign, and we have a closed circle at 7, so we have less than or equal to, so that's going to be that. And over here, we have a graph of y is greater than 7, so we have an open circle at 7, shading it to the right, and our interval notation is open parentheses 7, comma, infinity, close parentheses.